Good evening, all. Welcome to Coach's Corner with Heck and King. It is Monday, March 31st, the final day of March. We are down to 4 in March Madness. And as everybody thought, because it happens so often, we've got all 4 number 1 seeds. And when I say it happens all the time, it has only happened twice in the history of the entire tournament. So we'll get into that. We have our first basketball state champion from South Bend since 1994 in the St. Joe artist formerly known as the Indians, now the Huskies. We'll cover that here and much more here on Coach's Corner.
Coach's Corner with Coach Heck and the infamous Coach Patrick King. You're stuck with me, man.
I'm stuck.
You are stuck with me. I ain't going anywhere.
There's a lot of people that are jealous of me for sitting here, and there's some people that there's a little sympathy going on at the same time.
There's more people that are sympathetic to you. I'm just saying that much right now. Just remember what Ron Hecklinski said today. And you ain't that good. The scouting report said you were pretty good. You ain't that good.
Coach's Corner with Heck and King is proudly presented to you by Tony Letcher with Health Markets Insurance, On Funeral Homes of Mishawaka, Frick's Driving School of Mishawaka, and the Harbor Group Planned Wealth down in Anderson. Before we get started, make sure and like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and comment in the chat. Now, here's Heck and King.
That's enough.
Hey, and I have to say something before we even get too far.
Heck,
So that my normal track,
wait a minute. Heck found the buttons.
my normal track that I have with the Black Sedan Band, which is the phenomenal music that we use in and out of breaks and everything. All my computer files got corrupted for some reason today, so I had to remake the intro video, and I had none of the songs on my computer, so I had to improvise. So shout out to the Black Sedan Band, as always, down in Birmingham. Check them out on YouTube and their website. But anyway, what are you guys up to?
Well, if you would have known, we could have done karaoke for the intro.
We
didn't know.
We probably could have, and I do karaoke. Once a year. I mean, once a year I get to have one beer a year, and after one beer a year, I'm singing to myself.
You see,
I'm singing to myself.
everybody in the room runs and hides.
Hey, so listen, man. Welcome tonight. We have a great show tonight. First of all, just to get to hang with the great Pat King. Pat was down in Indianapolis broadcasting the 3A championship game and he did not broadcast the 4A game, but he was there, and we'll have some great insight on high school basketball. We'll talk obviously about the NCAA tournament because, as Scott alluded to, it's only the second time in the history of the NCAA tournament that all 4 seeds are alive. Right. And, the bracket busters that have happened in the past did not happen this year, obviously.
Right. And all the experts are trying to figure out why this happened, and it doesn't take too long to spell NIL to maybe come up with a pretty good reason. But
yeah. I mean, I would like to see. I would like to see this, statistics that say that these 4 teams, what their NIL budget is.
Right.
Did you see the other thing that I saw a thing on ESPN today that Auburn's starting lineup is average age is older than like 12 NBA teams?
That doesn't surprise me. That's what I was leading up to. I also heard one of the talk shows this morning said there are only 6 freshmen out of the 4 teams that get meaningful minutes, and
they're all on Duke.
4 of them play for Duke.
Yeah, and here's the difference between you and me. I listen to no other talk shows, but Heck and King.
Well, you have a shorter trip to school too.
But I listen to none. The only one I support is Coach's Corner with Heck and King, and I form my own opinions and my own ideas. And like I said, at 7 o'clock, we're going to have the great Scott Hicks, Hall of Famer, just a great high school basketball player at Cathedral. Played overseas a little bit.
Where did he go to college?
The Irish, man, are you kidding me? He had 3 great years at Notre Dame. I'm sorry, 4 great years at Notre Dame. Won a lot of basketball games. We'll talk about that. And then he went in. He was an assistant AD at where?
Cathedral.
Stop. No, okay, here's the deal. Keep listening to those other shows. Assistant AD at Butler. And then he got into coaching.
Butler won today, by the way.
I'm so happy for that, man. And then he got into coaching and coached, I don't know, maybe 10 or 11 years at Cathedral, and then, coached maybe 8 or 9 years at Broad Ripple. Now he's the athletic director at Washington High School in Indianapolis. But he'll be here at 7, and we'll talk about that Hall of Fame thing, what it means to him, his career, his time in the great South Bend. And then at 7:30, it's just, we're going to have a great visit with just a wonderful guy, Russ Bradford. Russ Bradford was a longtime assistant coach at UTEP under the legendary coach Don Haskins. Now, if you look on that UTEP roster in those days, and Russ will talk about it, those UTEP teams had a plethora of Chicago-based players.
Okay.
Tim Hardaway, Anthony Davis, just a great number. And how about that word plethora, by the way?
Plethora. That was a good one.
Yeah, no.
Go ahead.
Okay, you listen to talk show hosts, right?
Right. You get
I
the
work on
dictionary.
my vocabulary on the way to school.
Plethora.
But all those Chicago kids that went to UTEP, that's Russ Bradford. And then Russ got out of coaching, spent some time in New Mexico State, got out of coaching, is an author. He's written 3 books. Paddy on the Hardwood, about his time when he was a national coach in Ireland. 40 Minutes of Hell, the Nolan Richardson story,
with Arkansas,
which you read.
Yeah, it's a good book.
And then he's got a new book out now called Big Time, and the great Russ Bradford will share his thoughts back on those UTEP days, and then about writing books. So we have a great show. And without further ado, let's just jump into it, man.
We could, first of all, tell the truth. Plethora was a word that the Sunday sermon had involved, and you picked that up at church on Sunday.
Actually, it is not. It is a word that I've used and just a lot of times, and I used it today when I was talking to my class. And if I use a word in a day, I got to use it twice. I cannot use just one word one time.
Get your money's worth out.
So a plethora of great players out of Chi-Town, and the great Russ Bradford brought those. So how good does Russ have to be to take kids out of Chi-Town, take them down to UTEP?
Well, a lot of that was during the heydays of DePaul with Ray Myers up there too.
Sure. Just to get those kids out of there, and the legendary Texas Western coach Don Haskins.
Sure.
So what do you and Don Haskins have in common?
We both know Dean
men.
Foster.
Stop. Don Haskins does not know Dean Foster. But what are you and Don? You've told this to me many times.
We were the ones that started 5 black players on a team in Texas.
Yes,
right.
Yes. In Plano, Texas for you.
I was in Plano back in the 80s, and obviously he was in the 60s out in El Paso.
Yeah, and the great Texas Western movie, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and Russ and I will relive one of my all-time favorite evenings that included basketball when Russ gets on here. But anyway, let's jump right into the high school state tournament in the state of Indiana.
I was down there for the 2 night games Saturday. I know the 1A and 2A games, that people said that they were probably the best 2 games they've had at the 1A and 2A combined in recent memory. They said both games were competitive, good quality teams, huge crowds. They said they had 10 or 12,000 for the morning games, which is that's a bunch for that small of schools and that small of towns. The 2 games at night were as advertised. Everybody thought that the Addicts St. Joe game was going to be the game, and it was until the second game. And St. Joe, congratulations to them. They did everything the right way. I've got the statistics right here, but the one thing is they won. They came away with a state championship against a very good Crispus Addicts team. And then that second game, you had a team in Fishers that had a 43-game winning streak, 42. They hadn't lost a game in 42, 43 years. They'd come up here to Elkhart and just killed people the week before. and played a finally healthy Jeffersonville team coached by an IU player. And
the great Sharon Wilkerson.
Mr. Basketball. It was amazing. It was very high quality. Lots of college coaches there. There were probably more mid-major coaches there than power conference coaches there.
Well,
and I think that's to be expected. But some good players. Jeffersonville has some players, and they were, believe it or not, they were bigger and more physical than Fisher's was, at least that night.
So when you tell me that a lot of mid-American or mid-level college coaches were there, that doesn't surprise me at all, because most of the Power 5 schools, I would think the most high school players that they would have on a roster might be 2 when they go to the portal and when they get done selecting the experienced players and the good players that are in the portal. And and I don't want to shock you. And I don't want to jump off track here because I've been known to do that. But IU had a nice visitor today from the University of Kansas that just declared that he was heading into the portal. And that player was who?
What, are you talking about Badunga?
Yes.
Okay, Corey Badunga, sure.
He also had a do not contact.
Yes. Floyd Badunga.
Rumor is he was where?
He was down in Bloomington today.
Yep.
He was in Bloomington, and he needs to be in Bloomington. And I'm going to tell you why he needs to be in Bloomington, because Bloomington has one player.
I was going to say,
Coach DeFreeze's son, Tucker DeFreeze.
You can promise him some minutes, because right now there's plenty of minutes.
Yeah, Tucker DeFreeze, who, by the way, is an MVP in the Missouri Valley Conference and is just an outstanding player. And, oh, by the way, as Ron goes off on another tangent, I'm
just
Coach DeFreeze.
Go for it.
Coach DeFreeze, his coaching staff kind of leaked out a little bit today. And one of his coaches is a person named Drew Adams, who's from Bloomington South and who was on the IU coaching staff from 2009 to 2011. So he's a Bloomington guy. And I think that's phenomenal to have a Bloomington guy on your coaching staff.
That shows you that he wants to recruit Indiana, because I'm sure that whoever this person is has connections to AAU and knows who the players are in state, and where they can compete with Purdue for some of these in-state players that have been either going to Purdue or actually leaving the state, like Badunga went to Kansas. And how
Or Xavier Booker going to Michigan State.
Booker going to Michigan State.
Yeah, no, and I couldn't agree with you more. But at the end of the day, if Coach DeFreeze is going to follow suit, is he going to be all over high school kids in the state of Indiana, or is he going to flood his rosters with portal transfer guys and maybe recruit 1 or 2 high school players, much like everybody else is doing?
I think he's got to go
except for Matt Painter.
Else. Yeah, good point. I think he's got to follow suit with everybody else. He's got to go to the JUCOs. He's got to go find those mid-major kids and find kids that have 2 years of eligibility left.
So when you say except for Matt Painter, what does that tell you? Maybe why Matt Painter doesn't do that? Is it because he doesn't have the NIL funds?
It's a good point.
He doesn't need to.
Right now,
Well, they're not signing a blank check over to guys, but I see on Instagram and on social media, like all the TKR and Braden and Fletch and all those guys are getting like sponsorship deals from brands. I don't know how much Purdue's collective is paying them, but they're getting money from other places. And Matt can tell guys like, hey, come here, you're gonna get better, and you're gonna have a chance to make money, and you're gonna have a chance to compete in March.
So what is okay? So what is the bottom line for Braden Smith? Because there are rumors out there now that Braden Smith has got his checkbook open, and he's got about 7 or 8 people.
Can he be bought?
That have said to him, "We'll buy you," and by buying I mean $6-7 million.
That's what I've heard too.
Got to go for Umar Ballo.
Is Matt Painter, is his checkbook at Purdue $5 or $4 or $3 million to Braden Smith? Or does Braden Smith have a deal where he can go to Lee's Chicken and get, eat Lee's Chicken every night?
Food.
Yeah, and get
Or he
maybe
can get his free
$100,000.
Tesla Cybertruck like he has.
You're 3 hots in a cot.
Yeah, so
Purdue is also like going to be national title good next year. Like I hate to break it to everybody that bleeds down in Bloomington for IU. Purdue is going to be much better next year,
Scott,
and they were already really good this year.
Quick question: what's the big redhead, 7-foot redhead kid? I saw he
Will
transferred.
Berg, yeah, he's gone. He's gone, and so's Brian Waddell. I felt bad for Brian Waddell. Brian Waddell put in a lot of work. He was really good, and he's a legacy.
And he was loyal to the school. Well,
Yeah,
but somebody said he's also graduating.
Well, loyalty and a chance to make money. There's 2 levels of it, man. And Miles Colvin. I mean Rosie Colvin's kid, outside linebacker for the Chicago Bears at one point in time. George Hallis and the boys were too penny pinching to pay him. So all Rosie Colvin does is go to New England,
right,
and win 3 or 4 Super Bowls because New England paid him. But Miles Colvin. And Miles Colvin played, 17, 18 minutes a game as a sophomore. So what does that tell you? That Purdue is loaded in that wing category, and they have enough players that they don't want to invest money into Miles Colvin. So Miles is going to put himself out there and get money elsewhere.
It's possible. I want to see. They had didn't they recruit 5 or 6 freshmen last year or seniors? So they've got a group that's real young. How many of those kids are going to stay?
The freshman class was Raleigh Burgess. Golly, I got something in my throat. Raleigh Burgess, Jack Benner, CJ Cox, and Jakari Harris. Yeah. And all of them, I mean, except for Jack Benner, really, all of them got a decent amount of run.
Right.
But the word I've heard is there's a dude from South Dakota State. I don't remember his name. And allegedly, he's like the #1 big guy in the transfer portal, and he's been at Purdue and he was at Iowa State. So that might be the guy to come in and take Will Berg's minutes, especially if Daniel Jacobson is healthy next year. Like again,
at 7'4", we have another Zach Edey type of player.
And he can shoot, and he has a green light to shoot.
Okay.
Yeah, he has a green light to shoot in recruiting. Yeah, hey, listen, Dan. Yeah, listen. Oh, we'll let you shoot, and then when he straps him up and puts the jersey on, what are you taking that for? Get inside where you belong, man.
Thanks, you're right.
Hey, Coach,
he took a couple J's in the games that he did play before he broke his tibia.
Pick and pop on the bench.
I hear you. Let me jump back before we have time. Let's talk about we got to give St. Joe a little bit of time.
You got to give the Indians and Huskies some props, man.
This is the same St. Joe team that was 15 of 31 from threes in one of their games last week at Logansport against Maconaquah. This week, as we suspected, one of our topics last week, and even in our pregame Saturday before the game, was shooting and shooting backgrounds. Can high school kids make shots in a pro in an NBA arena? And from what I saw Saturday, the answer is no in either game. St. Joe was 3 for 20 from threes. Attucks was 3 of 15 from threes. Neither team could make a three, and both of them the week before had pretty well lived off of three-pointers. Like I said, St. Joe hit 15 threes in one game, and I think they hit 10 the other.
So do you have the box score from Fishers and
it's here someplace as well.
And Jeffersonville?
Yeah, look and see. I thought I handed it to you
I have Chase Konechny's dunk pulled up too, if you want to see that again.
Because when it happened, we were comparing that to the Chandler Thompson of your day, and
stop.
We did. I said
that
because the timing of it was with a minute to go in a tie game.
Yeah.
And it was just the drama of it that, Shrewsbury took a little jumper from the wing, missed, and the ball came off perfect off the back of it. And Briscoe was there to rebound the big 6'9" kid from Attucks, who had been just dominating inside and didn't block out, didn't get a body on anybody. And Konechny just basically came up and took it away from him and just put it in over the top of him.
Yeah, but so when Chandler did it, Chandler was up. His elbows were at the rim.
Exactly.
And he kind of windmilled it in over Larry Johnson. Yeah. But I'm not going to take anything away from Chase Konechny because that is a phenomenal play.
The dramatics of it and the timing of it was so symbolic. I mean, that was the first thing that flashed in my mind. So now they're up 2, and Attucks never scored again.
Yeah,
that was the game winner.
And I think one of the things that was overlooked about St. Joe, sure St. Joe scored a lot of points, 70, 71, maybe 72 points. I think I remember hearing that they were the leading, might have been the leading scorer in the state.
They were one of the 75 game, I think. That.
But I mean, their schedule allowed them to play a lot of different ways. If it was going to be a run and gun, high flying game, they could score 75 to 90 to win. If they had to play a game where they had to grind it out, much like that Columbia City
or even a CMA
regional,
games, right?
They could play that way too. And I mean, does the experience factor come into play? The fact that they were down there a year ago, they had been through all of the. I mean, how the game was put on, staying in hotel rooms, what time the shoot around was. I mean, they had been through that. I mean, a solid year.
Yes.
And did that play in their favor?
It had to.
Heck yeah, it did.
Sure it did. So congratulations to St. Joe. That, like we said, that's the first South Bend team that's won a state
1994
since Clay won in '94.
Tommy Debates.
Yeah, I know,
man.
And video credit to our friend Austin Huff that I pulled off on Twitter. Thanks, Austin.
Borrowed that from him. Thank
All
you,
right,
Austin.
So now that we've got the game, here's the biggest question of the day. And we would be, we wouldn't be worth our salt if we didn't report this. So Eric Gaff is a Concord High School graduate. Derek Deshawn resigns at Concord.
Right.
Now the word I got is he had just had enough of the parents.
Yes.
The word I got. Now I ain't gonna sugarcoat it.
I know exactly.
He had literally had enough of the parents telling him what to do, and he said, "I'm done. I'm gonna take a dean's job, and I'm gonna step away from basketball. Maybe step away for a bit, recharge my batteries, and maybe look to go somewhere else in a year or two." So, does Eric Gaff look to go back to Concord? Now, here's the question, or here's the comment on. It might not be Concord, but when you're coaching at a Catholic school, the benefits, the pension, they can't compare to what you can get as a public at a public school.
The behind the scenes things that people don't know about.
Yes. The pay, the benefits, the retirement. And we all know about retirement now because, when you're 32 years old, the last thing y'all think about is retirement. When you're like us, in our late 60s, it's the biggest thing we think about. So the retirement is a big deal. So is that a big deal to Eric Gaff to where he's now going to take a look at the financial aspect because he's got all but two players coming back?
Yes.
Now, can they make another run? I don't know, but at the end of the day, they're moving up to 4A next year.
You haven't mentioned it. They are moving up because the new rule that they put in 2 years ago maybe is any 2 consecutive years. It's not the years that go along with the reclassifications. It's any 2 years. Well, they went to the state last year. They went to the state this year. So guess what? They're going to be now in the 4A. So they'll be in the same section over Michigan City or LaPorte, wherever it is, with Riley and Adams and Penn, or they'll send them to Elkhart. Just depends on how they want to do that.
So I got a question for you. Is it your birthday today? Because we just had 4 or 5 young ladies walk in here with a birthday cake.
Well, one of the girls has a little crown on her hat.
So it might be her birthday. It might be her 21st.
So it might be a 21. We may have to cut this short.
We may have to. No, we may have to interview her for her 21st
get her
birthday.
Over here for an interview.
Yeah, we may have to do that as we move on to this show.
We have to get her early here before they're heading for the bar now.
Well, no, they need a few drinks to loosen her up to get on here and speak. But anyway, back to St. Joe and back to Eric Gaff. That is, if I'm John Kennedy, the principal of St. Joe, I'm going to let it settle down a little bit and enjoy the state championship. But that's a question that I'm going to pose to Eric Gaff and say, Aaron, we love you, man. We've had great coaches here, and you're the guy that took us to the promised land. We want you to stay. What are your thoughts?
Right.
And you know what? If I'm Eric Gaff, here's what I'm saying. Hey, you want me to stay? Pony up a little bit here.
Show me some money.
Yeah, show me the green. And it doesn't have to be as cocky as I'm saying it, but at the same time, it is a fact, right?
Just like Tom Cruise said in that one TV show, show me the money.
Yeah,
Get him a sponsorship deal at Basney Honda or something.
Yeah, we get him a sponsorship, get him a car, whatever they want to do.
Or the linebacker.
Before we change off of this, I want to mention real quick, and Desmond Briscoe from Attucks is pretty good. 6'8" kid in the middle, had committed to Iowa and decommitted when they made their coaching change. So he is open. Alexander Harris, 6'2" guard for them, is very good as well. They had some very good players.
Yeah,
and he's going to IUSP. Now, we remember 7 of these kids transferred. They were not with Attucks a year ago.
Yeah, so
the Indianapolis people are not real upset that they lost, because there's a little jealousies going on down there.
Yeah, but I know Chris Hawkins is a great coach. He gets the most out of his guys. Our next guy that we're bringing in here, Scotty Hicks, would be able to talk about Attucks a little bit. Since Scott is the athletic director at Washington High School, but
you want me to put him on?
Yeah, no. Let's get the great, wonderful Scotty Hicks on, man. What's happening, Scotty?
Hey, what's up, Coach Heck? How you doing, guys?
Just another day. It's another day. And okay, here's this day. Now, here's how this day is different for you and me, okay? Yeah. I'm signing something today. I got to sign something. And I signed Ron Hecklinski. Then afterwards, I signed HOF 25. Right? Right on, man.
Hey, I can live with that. It's still a little surreal and unbelievable, but I'm gonna try that one time now.
Oh dear.
Yeah, no, and to talk about and to preview your career a little bit, and this kind of surprised me, but as a kid growing up, you always wanted to go to Washington High School, Indy, Washington, right?
Absolutely. First of all, guys, I appreciate you having me on, man. You guys are doing a great job. Grew up on the west side of Indianapolis. My cousin John Sherman Williams and Darren Fitzgerald and a lot of those guys were already at Washington. Most of my family went to Washington. My sister, my brother, grew 2 streets from George McGinnis, where he grew up, and the great Wayne Pack and a lot of those Hall of Famers. So that was always my dream to go to George Washington. And first high school basketball game was there. And as an 8th grader, my parents had heard of a Cathedral High School who Coach O'Brien had talked to us about, and that was the decision that was made, and changed the trajectory of my career. But that's exactly where I wanted to go. I wanted to play with my cousin John Sherman, who's also a Hall of Famer, and that's where I dreamed of playing.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, and I know it was probably a little bit early in your career for this to happen, but did Cathedral come at you with some NIL money?
I tell you, their NIL money was a cheeseburger at McDonald's, which was unbelievable at the time.
You can plead the 5th on that if you need to.
Hey, so you mentioned John Sherman Williams. Man, I cannot not talk about John Sherman Williams and the player that he was, and then he ended up at Indiana State, and he was a phenomenal player, right?
Oh, phenomenal. I tell you, we started very early in age, and his scoring ability, even at the middle school level, I think it was averaging almost like 25, and I think I was next in line with about 8 points a game. But he's always been a professional scorer. He went on to Indiana State and broke all kind of records. I think he holds every one of the records that Bird doesn't have. So he had a tremendous career at Indiana State and went on to play some pro ball, and he's doing some great things now.
Speaking of a tremendous career, you had a great career at Indianapolis Cathedral, and then that landed you a gig back here in South Bend, and still playing for the Irish, right?
That is correct. I played 4 years at Cathedral, had a tremendous career, a tremendous experience. with the group of guys I was with, and the Cathedral's a Cathedral Irish, so it was kind of a very easy transition to attend University of Notre Dame, where my teammates Kenny Barlow.
That's right.
We played 3 years at Cathedral,
Mhm.
and played 3 years at Cathedral. And on my recruiting trip, I came to one of the Irish's football games, which was unbelievable. And then Ken Barlow, who was my teammate and roommate for 3 years at Notre Dame, we connected again and had a great experience in South Bend. It was tremendous. It was tremendous.
Now you probably can't. I know you wouldn't know where we are. We are across the street here at the Linebacker. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Linebacker.
Stop. The word was they used to carry Scotty Hicks out of the Linebacker.
No, I'm very familiar with the Linebacker. I just used to visit. It looks a little different from the background, but it has the same vibe. But I love that place. Love that place.
Yeah, that's really cool. So obviously you played for Digger Phelps then at Notre Dame, right?
Yeah, played for Coach Phelps. We had a tremendous team, tremendous experience. Coach Phelps is still to this day probably the most when it comes to motivating his team and having his team prepared. I mean, we had a great coaching staff, and Pete Gillen was a part of that staff, and Gary Brokaw, John Shoemate. We had a tremendous staff, and Coach Phelps did a great job of bringing us together. My junior year, we were expected to go far, and we got upset in the first game of the tournament. And then my senior year, where we was not supposed to do anything, and David Rivers was the junior, and Donald Roy, myself, and we were about 3 points away from the Elite Eight. We played in the Sweet 16 and got beat by a great North Carolina team. Kenny Smith and that group beat us in I think the Meadowlands. But we had a great experience at Notre Dame. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. Have some lifetime friends, and every time I come to South Bend, I only recognize the place. They've changed it so much. Football, basketball, the facilities there are unbelievable. Unbelievable. But had a great experience in South Bend.
Lots of new buildings. That new practice facility is just amazing that they have for the boys and the women.
Yes,
they turned the Rolfe Center into, the Rolfes didn't like it, but they turned that into that's a very nice practice facility. That's for sure.
Talk about the great John Shoemate, man. We just lost Shoe, I don't know, maybe a couple months ago, but John Shoemate was a beast.
Oh, he was a beast. I tell you, great player. Coach Phelps was I mean, he talked about that whole team, that Shoemate team that beat the UCLA team, and John Shoemate was a tremendous player, but a tremendous person in general. Great coach. I had him, I think, for 2 years, and he did a great job at Notre Dame and represented the university very well.
So your senior year, who were the other starters with you?
At Notre Dame, it was David Rivers was a point guard, myself.
Great player.
Who's that? Donald Royal.
Great
Mark
player.
Stevenson, and Gary Vose. Gary Vose was those guys were, I think, juniors. Actually, Donald and I were the captains. We were the two only seniors on the team. And Rivers was, dynamic point guard, All-American. And he was in that accident. I don't know if you recall, but he was in a life-threatening accident. He and Kenny Barlow was in an accident in Wakarusa the summer prior. And we didn't know if Dave was even going to make it to play. He came back, played first game, and the rest was history. Had a great season, and we went on to have a tremendous season, beating, I think in a 3-week period, we beat North Carolina, DePaul, and Duke.
That's a pretty good run.
I think North Carolina was ranked number 1 that year. Had a tremendous senior year, and those were our starting 5.
How did you decide you wanted to get into coaching?
Well, I kind of stumbled in it, to be honest with you. I knew after I played a little professional ball for about 4 or 5 years, and came back and I was the assistant athletic director at Butler University for 4 years,
Okay.
and I coached AAU basketball with the great Red Taylor, late great Red Taylor.
Yes.
He was John Wooden of AAU during that time. I think he won like 19 national champions. Got on his staff, and
Was that back in the
coached
municipal
with him
garden days?
Yes, the municipal
I mean,
gardens,
based out of
okay.
Bloomington, right? Based out of Bloomington.
No, the municipal gardens
that's
was here in Indianapolis.
Oh, okay.
That's
Okay.
Nap. That's Nap. Yeah.
Yes, that's Naptown, and Coach Red Taylor, he coached about he coached about all the top players. I mean, in the state, AAU, and we were able to get on his staff. And actually, I played. I think the time Chris Thomas in that group, Sean Klein, Chris Thomas, Chris Hill, we took a group to Florida and won the nationals that year. Won 2 nationals, and that's kind of what sparked my coaching career. I got into it with him, and then a couple of years later, I got on Cathedral staff the first year in '98. We were state champions. That was the first year of the class basketball, and we won the state that year. And then a couple of years later, I became the head coach and was at Cathedral for 10 years, Broad Ripple for 8 years, and coached for about 20 plus years.
Yeah, those are 2 storied programs when you talk about Cathedral's tradition, their program. Yes. But then you can't sleep on the tradition that they had at Broad Ripple with Bill Smith and what he started at Broad Ripple, right?
Oh, absolutely. Coach Smitty was he's actually one of the coaches that inspired me. He never coached me a day in my life, Coach Eck. Never coached me. But I remember the days of playing against the Broad Ripple team. We played against the state championship team with Stacy Turan, and he also played at Notre Dame. But we played my freshman year. We played against that state championship team, and just watching Coach Smitty on the sideline and what he did. I watched him all the way through. I was about 15 rows up when they won the state championship that year. And he was really a major inspiration as getting me into coaching. And he actually would come back and, mentor me as a coach at Broad Ripple, and had a lot of respect for him, And he did tremendous things. He coached George Hill at Broad Ripple and really turned that program around.
Yeah, I thought he did a great job there, and it's only fitting that his name is on that court there, right?
Yes. I was actually a coach there when that happened, and it was a tremendous honor. I mean, he's well deserved. Like I said, he impacted so many of that Broad Ripple team, and all of those guys. Robinson, King Duke, all those guys came back and honored him, and it's a tremendous honor. But he was like a father figure. I mean, he was an old school coach. I mean, he led with the hard hat, but he was a great leader, great coach, and he was actually on the staff in the NBA as well with Mike Woodson. So that tells you a lot.
Now they've closed Broad Ripple, but haven't they put a charter school in there? Because I think one of the 1A sectional was there maybe. What school's in it at Broad Ripple now?
Yeah, actually, what is it?
Purdue Poly something?
Purdue Poly North.
Okay.
Is actually in Broad Ripple, but actually Broad Ripple middle school is back up. So it's back going. I mean, it's still Broad Ripple, but Purdue Poly, I think, is on the 3rd floor or something like that. But
okay.
But they host the game there. It's one of the nicest facilities in
nice
IPS.
gym.
Oh, beautiful gym. Beautiful gym.
It is. Hey,
and a lot of history.
Back up a
What's
little
that?
bit. When you were at Butler as an assistant AD, who were some of the people over there? Who was the AD that you were working with? Was it
John Perry was the AD.
Okay.
Collier was the head coach.
Okay.
And that was actually, as the assistant AD, one of my first events was when IU and Bobby Knight came to
with Damon Bailey.
With Damon Bailey, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Barry.
That was incredible.
Barry Collier and I were roommates. Yeah, Barry
Okay.
Collier and I were teammates at Butler a long time ago.
Okay.
So that's my
yes.
connection to Butler. Barry and I were teammates, and I sat on the bench and he played.
Yeah.
That's
So,
right.
well, no, and that's not entirely true because Pat did guard Larry Bird when Larry played at Indiana State, and
Yeah.
I was asking him. I was
Stop
asking
it.
Pat. I
Stop.
said, "Well, what did you hold him to?" He said, "We held him to 48, man. We had a great night, man. Held him to 48." hey, so you get out of coaching in 2018. Was that going to be it for you? Did you know that was it before you got into the administrative part, or did you just not have an opportunity that you liked?
It was more or less the latter. I didn't have an opportunity that really fit. And I'd been in the athletic administration for 4 to 6 years, actually about 6 or 7 years at the time at Butler, and then a little bit at Cathedral as well. And after that happened, I was presented an opportunity at Washington. Dr. Law, who was the principal and still to this day the principal, we had talked, and I thought it was time to get back into athletic administration, and I absolutely love it. It's an opportunity to coach the coaches a little bit and still impact the kids as much as we can.
Yeah, I think that's really important what you just said about mentorship. A lot of people think athletic directors are, it's just about having officials there, about having the buses there. But I think it's about mentoring coaches, whether they're younger coaches or they're older coaches, because not a lot of people have been through what you've been through and been in this, the certain situations and scenarios that you've been through, and your ability to sit them down and coach them up a little bit. I think that's invaluable.
Oh, I'm absolutely. Actually, it's funny. I was having a conversation with my assistant, and we were just talking about coaching and being on the coach's hat and then putting on the administrator hat. And we were talking because he's going to be my football coach this year. Played at Butler. Ramon Stallings, great guy. But we were talking, and I said, if I ever got back into coaching, I would appreciate it so much more. And just being on both sides and seeing just how everything is run, a big picture is it's tremendous. And just have an opportunity to sit down with my coach. I got a great group of coaches. I mean, they're willing to sit down, learn, share things with me, and bottom line is about impacting those kids. And that's what we're there for. And I got a great group of coaches, so I truly appreciate my role.
So one of the guys that you and I both know is a guy named Kenny Roseman. His son, Ethan, just a great point guard on that St. Joe team. His other son, AJ, plays up here at Holy Cross. Talk about Kenny for a minute.
Oh, man. I get emotional talking about Kenny Roseman. Kenny Roseman and I go way back. He's also a Cathedral grad. And we were on that first staff together at Cathedral when we were both assistant coaches. And Kenny and I we would play against the player. This is when we both could play a little bit. We would challenge the players after practice, play a little bit, and but we go way back. His family is super special. I was with him last night. Check this out, Coach. You'll be proud of him. I was 5 rows up in the middle of the St. Joe's cheering section. And it was a tremendous game. Coaches did a great job. And I was so proud of Ethan, and the job they did was unbelievable. And the entire Roseman family is just an incredible group of people. And I'm so proud of what Ethan has done and AJ and all those guys. They've done a tremendous job. And Kenny has done a tremendous job raising those guys. So I'm very proud of him. Great friend.
That had to be a big deal for Ethan, because Ethan was the only player that really played minutes for St. Joe that was not on that team last year.
Yes. That's what I understand.
All those other kids were there. That was their second trip, so they had some payback, on their mind. I thought he handled himself very well, especially there late in the game, because it was his ball. They were very dependent on him taking care of the ball and getting people in the right places, just like he had all season. And I thought he handled himself very well, and especially those last 2 to 3 minutes when the game was close.
Oh, I agree. I knew that Addicts, Coach Hawkson does a tremendous job. We played them. over the years, and they're when they press is when they're at their strength, when they can create turnovers and things like that. So I thought that was going to be very critical because they didn't press earlier because I think the pace of the game was totally for St. Joe's. But I think when they went to the press, I had mentioned the guy was standing next to. I said if they can handle that press, I think they'll be in good shape because their press could be a monster. And Ethan did a great job. I think his poise is his strength. He's very
Addicts will, I was going to say Addicts will sit down, and they sat down and got in a stance. That's for sure.
Yes. He
All right, man.
Yeah.
So now you have this great career. You have this great playing career. You have this great coaching career. You're well respected in the, not only the South Bend area, but you're well respected in Indianapolis, where you're from. And now all of a sudden, and I don't know who nominated you or who did some speaking for you, but now you get the call that you're going into the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame. Talk about your thoughts when you got that call, man.
Oh, man. I tell you, and what was special about that, Coach, was the call came from Wayne Pack. Wayne Pack was on that 69 George Washington team, undefeated team with McGinnis and that group. And Wayne and I had done, he's still connected with the kids, connected with the school. And he calls me earlier during the day. I don't pick up. I'm busy. So on the way home, I'm driving back, and I call him back, and I said, what's up, Wayne? What you need? And he's kind of small talking about golf. I'm getting excited, and then the next thing you hear is, "You ready for some great news?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" And when he told me, he said, "You're welcome to the Hall of Fame." And I tell you, I about ran off the road, man. I was so excited and extremely honored, and it's a surreal moment because it's something that was never on my radar, and it's something that I'm truly blessed because, like I said in my speech, these are my heroes. These are guys I looked up to and guys that I followed, and George McGinnis and Downey, and I had conversation with these guys, and to be mentioned along those line as those guys is absolutely unbelievable. It's mind blowing, and it's an incredible honor. And I mean, to this day, I'm still kind of shocked of it, to be honest with you, Coach.
Yeah, no, and it's a very humbling thing because once once you sit back and you mention the names like you just did of all the people that are in the Hall of Fame, and then all of a sudden you see your name in the Hall of Fame, it's like, What am I doing here, man? What am I doing here?
Yeah,
I mean, from my standpoint, all I said, I'm just coaching ball. And that's all I ever wanted to do was coach ball. I didn't do this to be in the Hall of Fame. I just wanted to coach ball. And
absolutely.
Then they give you this honor, and then they tell you that you got 3 minutes to talk about it, right? Well, and obviously, the over-under for my speech, I set it at 8. Either I'm going over or I'm under. And everybody said, heck, you're going to be under. I knew I was over, man. I knew I was going over, man.
Hey, heck, that was a great speech, man. I totally understand because I tell you, when I initially wrote my speech, it was about 20 minutes, man.
No, I know.
You got
his still was.
Yeah. And the great Doug Mitchell. Doug Mitchell and I had gotten together, and he was telling me, he said, just keep whittling it down. And I said, I got no more. I can't whittle anymore, man. And I'm at 12 and a half. He said, you just got to go with it, man.
I tell you, just go with it. Hey, Coach, I totally understand, man. I was chopping up my speech the day of. I'm like, man, I got to cut this out. I got to cut that out. But it was a great speech, man. Actually, my family, they spoke about your speech. They thought you was the funniest guy up there, man. They said, man, he is hilarious, but he had a great speech. So,
I certainly appreciate that, man. And I want to congratulate you and everybody else. The one thing when I got my call, and everything. Wayne Barker called me, and that was really, really, really cool. But then when I found out who was on it with me, Dave McCullough, Jimmy Shannon, you, Lloyd and Floyd Kerr, I mean, that's when I cried, because I'm thinking I'm going in with these guys that I know, and they're great guys. I mean, that's when I shed a tear, man.
Man, that's what's up. I felt the same way. I can go down the line. I mean, yourself, coaches, I coached against. I mean, actually, Troy Lewis, we were roommates. Troy Lewis and I played pro ball together. We were roommates, and followed his career. And Matt Graves, when he was at Butler, I was assistant AD there. So just watching guys grow, and the respect I have for you and Coach McCullough and everybody, man, it was great. It was absolutely tremendous day. The whole entire day was unbelievable. It was unreal.
Yeah, hey, listen, man, keep rolling at Indianapolis, Washington. Keep taking care of those kids, showing them how to be. Just being a great role model to the kids and a mentor to the coaches, man. Thanks for taking a couple of minutes out of your day to spend some time with us, man. You're the best.
Man, I appreciate you. Hey, thanks for having me on, man. Y'all keep doing great things.
All right, man.
Thanks, Scott.
That is the great Scotty Hicks from Indianapolis. And the great Scotty King is going to take us out for a little bit of a break. And then we got the great Russ Bradford on.
Medicare plans can be confusing, but they don't have to be. I'm Tony Letcher, licensed insurance agent. I can help you compare your options because I'm appointed with many nationally recognized carriers. With my help, you can find the coverage that fits your needs and budget. I don't want you to be my client today. I want you to be my client forever. Call Tony Letcher today to schedule your free consultation or visit tletcher.com.
Dealing with the loss of a loved one can leave you with lots of unanswered questions and stress. At Hahn Funeral Homes of Mishawaka, we're here to help. Our focus has always been on the families that we serve. At Hahn Funeral Homes, we stand ready to meet your needs and exceed your expectations when selecting a funeral home. Our experienced funeral directors and staff will be there for you every step of the way for all of your funeral service needs. Hahn Funeral Homes is located at 505 West 8th Street in downtown Mishawaka. You can call them anytime at 574-255-1474 or stop in to get all your answers from our local funeral professionals about all your funeral needs. Hahn Funeral Homes, a family serving families. Are you sick and tired of relying on somebody else to get you around? Are you coming to Indiana from a place where you just never needed to learn how to drive? Well, if you're looking to hit the road with confidence, Frick's Driving School in Mishawaka has been helping drivers of all ages gain the skills they need for a lifetime of safe driving. With experienced, patient instructors like Mr. Coach Pat King and flexible scheduling, Frick's makes it easy for you to learn to drive easy and stress-free. Whether you're a first-time driver or need a refresher like Mr. Coach Ron Heklinski, Frick's has you covered. Plus, for just $65, they offer the state driving exam in-house. No need to go anywhere else. Visit fricksdrivered.com or call 574-256-0650 to get started today. If you're nearing retirement, or if you're like me and you're not nearing retirement but you still want to get your money right for retirement, the Harbor Group Planned Wealth has you covered with the ability to answer questions like, what specific steps should I take before retiring? When should I draw Social Security? How do I manage investment risk? How much will health insurance cost if I retire? If I'm over 62, which I still am not, how much money can I earn part-time without affecting my Social Security and or my pension? And is it really possible to get a raise if I retire? If you want all those questions and more answered, call the Harbor Group at 855-5-HARBOR, HARBER, or you can contact VP Jessica Rhodes at 765-393-1074, or visit the website harborgroup.com. Securities and advisory services are offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC. Hey, we're back with more Coach's Corner with Heck and King. Now joining us is a former UTEP assistant and New Mexico State assistant, and now His latest book is a satirical novel called Big Time, which I haven't read yet. I read the tagline. It looks funny about a university selling itself out to corporate interests. So talk about that and much more with our next guest, Mr. Russ Bradford.
Rusty.
Hi, Ron.
What's up, man?
Can you see me okay? I'm trying to get.
You're beautiful, man.
I know, but I'm trying to close the. The sun is setting. You know, I'm here in New Mexico.
You're great. You're beautiful, man. I love
sure?
the glasses. Yeah, you're great.
All right.
You're great. So we have the great Russ Bradford, and Russ and I, when we were both young pups and we were doing like the college summer camp circuit, Russ and I first met each other working at the Illinois State basketball camp, and we had we've been together ever since. Russ was on the staff at Ball State University for about a half a year, and then went back to UTEP and had a great allegiance to Don Haskins. We always talk about, and I was telling my co-host here, Pat King, about how do you get Chicago kids to El Paso, Texas? That's the question to you, because Russ did it time and time again, starting with Tim Hardaway.
Well, there wasn't NIL money at that time, thank goodness. But I was a Chicago guy myself, as you know, and I think it was just a matter of you get them out of the cold weather into to visit down in the desert. There's mountains and blue sky, and it's 70 degrees all winter. And so I think it was really the weather, but also Don Haskins' reputation, particularly among the African American community. And I was, frankly, Ron, I'm not being falsely modest, Tim Hardaway was total luck. I thought he was pretty good. I didn't think he was that good, and that led to a crew of Chicago kids coming down and playing in El Paso.
Talk about the other Chicago kids that came following Tim Hardaway.
Well, let me think. There was Marlon Maxey, played a couple of years in the NBA. And,
yes.
The late Ralph Davis, who had 16 points in the upset against Kansas to get to the Sweet 16, and Johnny Melvin, same thing. Johnny Melvin out-rebounded at 6'4", out-rebounded Mourning and Mutombo when we upset Georgetown on the road. So they're Chicago kids are gutty kids. They're a different flavor than Indiana kids, who are, I think, known for their smarts and their shooting. But Chicago kids are scrappy and tough, and none of those Chicago kids were very good 3-point shooters. But they would have been if they'd have been in Indiana, I'd say.
Yeah, well, they were just flat out competitors, and when you're playing in Chicago and playing on the courts in Chicago, and playing to stay in those games, I mean, everything goes, and you have to be tough, to stay on the court and not to get beat on those outdoor courts and have to sit out for an hour and a half. I always thought, when I recruited Chicago kids, that they were just the toughest dudes ever.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. And I think that, by the way, that's all died, I think, Ron. I don't think there's much playground culture anymore with the way gun violence has really wrecked Chicago. Kids were getting shot on the playground. And so it used to be you'd go to the park on a Saturday and you'd get winners, you'd play winners. And if you won, you stayed on. And if you lost, you might have to wait an hour to play again. But that culture, my understanding is that, I'm not coaching. I haven't been coaching for a while. I still do the TV for New Mexico State home games. But I think that culture is gone, that sort of competition. And I remember wondering, how did Larry Bird get to be so good? Not that he grew up in Indiana, but he grew up in a pretty remote part. But then I read that he was going over to the Army base and going through the same sort of process where you get pushed and shoved by the Army guys, and you might have to wait a half hour to get winners. Because I used to sort of wonder, how did a guy like Larry Bird get to be so good without playing against anybody? But he was playing against older Army guys.
Boy, I'm just amazed at some of the Chicago stories you have. This is Pat King. I'm Heck's sidekick, so I get to hear all his, Ball State stories and like you said, his recruiting in Chicago and everything like that. I'm kind of stuck in South Bend, but I'm just amazed at some of those the Chicago stories. Now, what is your connection at UTEP? Because I was in Dallas for 7 or 8 years back in the 80s, so I saw that changeover when all the Midwestern people came to Dallas to work, where basketball really made a lot of changes in the style of ball we played. I mean, I was there in Dallas with Mookie Blaylock and Spud Webb and Larry Johnson and that crew when they came through high school. So I saw them, and we were fighting the issue. We still had, football players trying to play basketball, and administration just didn't understand the ramifications of basketball in the winter, that it was not a second sport when, for football players to do.
Yeah, Pat, thanks for that. I had no connection to El Paso. I was already probably a better writer than I was a coach. Tim Floyd got a hold of my letter and showed it to Don Haskins, and they hired me based on my letter. So this is before I ever dreamed. I was already a big reader, but before I dreamed of being a writer. But in those days, I think you're right. I think Texas basketball's gotten a lot better since we were around at that time. I think those guys were a rarity, but now there's getting to be better and better players in Texas. At one time, Ron, you might remember this, is during the 80s when I was at UTEP. UTEP led the state of Texas in attendance, and we dominated. We were much better than Texas Tech, much better than Texas, much better than Houston. Once Phi Slamma Gemma left and Guy Lewis retired, we were better than Houston. And so, but those days are over now because of the NIL. El Paso UTEP will never compete again with Texas and Texas Tech. There's just too much money on that side of the state. And of course, we had Don Haskins, who some people think was the greatest coach ever to take the floor. So, but Texas basketball at that time was still growing. It's gotten much better now, and I think at that time many of the Texas kids were staying in state, but I don't think that's as true anymore.
Yeah, and I mean, the one thing that I want to say is that probably my greatest night in basketball, and I've had a lot of them. I've had great teams. You've seen some of my teams, but my greatest night was when I lived in Bloomington, Indiana. I was the head coach at Edgewood, and I had a really good player named Brian Blackwell, who Coach Knight had told Don Haskins about. And I'm sitting at home, and UTEP is in town because they're going to play IU the next night. And you call me and you say, hey, you need to come over to the hotel here because Coach Haskins is here, Coach Knight is here, Dockich is here, Ellenberger's here. Coach Haskins wants to talk about the Blackwell kid with you. And I say, are you kidding me, Ross? And you say, no, you meet me at the door. And I go into the room, and there are these basketball legends, man. They're talking about hunting. They're talking about fishing. Haskins has an undershirt with no sleeves on. It might have been the all-time greatest night for me ever. Do you remember that night?
I do, of course. Coach Haskins was a little rough around the edges. He wasn't. He wasn't a fancy dresser. I know Bob Knight was not as well, but that was it was always perplexing to me, though. I think Coach Haskins only wanted to play Indiana so he could hang around with Knight a little bit, because Don Haskins didn't socialize much with those guys. But I think we got beat pretty badly the next night. We played Indiana, I think, 3 times when I was there, and lost in the NCAA tournament to them once. The one time we beat them, remember with the Joe Hillman team?
Yes.
No. I think it was when Steve Alford was a freshman. They came to El Paso, and we beat them in a close one. That was when Bob Knight wore Don Haskins' clip-on tie to take the court, and Coach Haskins wore Bob Knight's sweater. And so that was but those guys I was very young then, and we were all, you were a little more fearless than I was. I was intimidated by Don Haskins, let alone Bob Knight. So I didn't have much interaction with Bob Knight. Dockich was always very nice. And Ron, I remember how kind Ron Felling was to us when we, I really liked Ron Felling. Is Ron Felling still around?
Yeah,
Ron,
he is still around. He lives in Bloomington. I saw Ron Felling about a year ago at a funeral of one of my players' fathers. And I always thought Ron Felling was just a stud, just a great guy, knew basketball as well as anybody. And when I saw him at this funeral, it really shocked me, because it's life. It's life. He's probably about 78 to 80. He's kind of a smaller guy now. And it was really sad to see the great Ron Felling, because if anybody could always tell a story and tell it great, it was Ron Felling, man.
Yeah, and I think those, that things have changed so radically with the NIL and the money that's involved. And the one thing I would say to your listeners and to Pat King, who seems like a smarter guy than you, I would say,
He is.
well, a lot of the talk I hear now that I'm on the broadcasting side, and as you know, I'm a writer now. I've written for Slam magazine and have a few books. But the one thing I would tell everyone is the kids did not make the rules. Like, it's not, you can be angry at the Indiana kids for transferring, or angry at and I know Purdue has done a good job of holding on to their kids, but you can be angry at those kids, but the grown-ups made the rules. We're the ones who gave the kids. So it's a little bit like putting chocolate in front of a child and saying, "Now, don't touch this chocolate." And not to be condescending and like the players are children, but this is the world we've given these kids, and the world that the coaches have demonstrated. Like, if there's more money, I'm going to leave. And I think it's a terrible lesson that we've taught the kids, but the kids have learned the lesson well. And it happened here in our state. I never have met Rick Pitino's son, but he got fired at Minnesota. And goes to New Mexico and has terrific success. He seems like a great young coach. But here comes Xavier, and I just thought, do the Patinos really need the money? And I thought, well, surely Patino's going to say, I'm not interested in leaving New Mexico. They saved me when I was fired at Minnesota. But no, everyone's on the first train out of town. As you know, Ron, the money was never much of a motivator for me, which is why I'm in the position I'm in here, in my modest house in New Mexico. But I do want to remind your listeners, it was not the kids who made these rules. It was the grown-ups, the administrators, the college presidents, the NCAA. These are the people, and it's all driven by money now. And the one thing I would also say is, once you throw the ball up at 7 o'clock and the ball goes up, it's still a beautiful game. I love the game. It's a great game. But I think that the business side of things has gotten to be completely out of control.
Yeah, and so you talk about then the game, and you really transitioned out of the game a little bit. You were at New Mexico State. Then you became a faculty member at New Mexico State, teaching classes. Then you got into writing. I mean, the 3 books that I've read 2 of them. Patio on the Hardwood is about your time in Ireland coaching. 40 Minutes of Help. Pat has read that book also. I can't think of a better basketball book than 40 Minutes of Hell. Now you have another book coming out called Big Time. So talk about your transition from being on the court, blowing the whistle, to now going and being a part of the academia and then becoming a writer.
Well, I was always a big reader, and I would get on when we would fly Southwest Airlines at UTEP, and if you go on last on Southwest Airlines, I don't know if it flies to Indianapolis or whatever, but you've been on Southwest, and if you go last, you get stuck with a middle seat, not near any of your friends, and I would deliberately get on last so I could read books on the plane. And I would rarely turn on my television, and I burned out a little bit. I couldn't do like you could do, and Bob Knight and some of these guys. I couldn't go home after watching practice and turn on the television and watch more basketball. I had to do something else that kept it fresh for me. So I was always a big reader, and eventually I met a writer here at New Mexico State named Robert Boswell. And he loved basketball, but I would go to his house and I'd want to talk about books and he'd want to talk about basketball. But I got very interested in trying to write and living a writer's life. And so I quit in 2000. I was working for Lou Henson at the time. I think a lot of your listeners would remember Lou Henson. He'd come back out of retirement to coach at New Mexico State. And I went and got a graduate degree in writing. And I've been writing ever since. So the new book is a satire, and you'll laugh, Ron. It just came out. It's called Big Time. And Big Time is set at a fictional school called Coors State University. There's a university in trouble, and Coors gives them $1 billion to rebrand as Coors State, but they insist that all the money goes to football and basketball. So half the faculty quits, and the rest of them are working at the football games and the basketball games in order to survive. So the engineering department is enlarging the stadiums, and math does statistics. The women's studies department does the players' laundry. But these 2 old history professors decide enough is enough. They're gonna take their university back. by doing, campus protests are a big deal and they're in the news a lot now. And my campus protests are funny. They have these silly campus protests that go wrong, but I don't think, I've gotten, Ron, where I read the New York Times and read the Chicago Tribune and that kind of thing, but I've gotten where I just think Stephen Colbert and Jon Stewart and some of these guys that are funny, that there's something about comedy that can get at the truth and poke fun at things. And you have a sense of humor, Ron. This is the book that you would like.
Yeah, no, as a matter of fact, I am going to get the book. We just had the book on the screen.
Good.
It looks great, and we would certainly like to be a part of promoting it with you. And so tell our listeners, how long does it take you? What's one of your projects take you in length to write a book?
General, I'm not a fast worker. I'm a fairly fast typer. But, I think because I didn't have a writing background, it's always been a struggle for me. So generally it takes at least 3 years for me to write a book. The Nolan Richardson book took 3 years. And then I had a book about gun violence in Chicago. I can't remember if you met Sean Harrington, Ron, but he's the gun violence survivor from Marshall High School. That book took 4 years. But this new one, Big Time, this one actually took 8 years. And I kept thinking, I've got to get this thing out before they put college sports in perspective and, and get everything back, because at one time at Indiana University, when Branch McCracken was the coach, he didn't make any more than the professors did. And I thought that the turn in college sports would be going back towards a sort of a more normal and a healthier, the way it is at, say, Manchester College or Indiana Wesleyan or Earlham College. There, sports are just part of the university, and I've always thought that's how it should be. And I think, I don't want to be critical of Bob Knight, who was such a great coach, but I think that's what got him in trouble, is you start thinking you're bigger than the university, or maybe the university just perceived him as being bigger than them. I don't know. I don't really know, but I know that where we get in trouble is when sports becomes bigger. It's in the end, it's a game, and it's supposed to teach us how to sustain our attention, how to sustain dedication and teamwork and loyalty, all the things that sports taught us as kids, Pat King. Those days are over. Now it teaches you how to cash in, how to cash in for yourself. And again, it's the adults that have taught the kids this. It's not the kids that have invented this. You can be mad at that kid for leaving Indiana, or you can be mad at that kid for leaving Notre Dame. But the truth is, we made this world for the kids, and the coaches have been leaving for more money for years. When was the last time you heard a coach say, "I can't leave, I've got 3 more years on my contract"? And I'll also say college presidents who fired coaches that shouldn't have been fired. I can't think of any Indiana examples off the top of my head. Maybe Mike Davis, he gets to the NCAA championship game, and 3 years later he's out the door. And I think that kind of, Rodney Terry at Texas was in the Elite Eight, I think 3 years ago, and he's out the door. North Carolina State wasn't North Carolina State in the Final Four last year?
Yes, they were.
Yes, they were.
And they forced that coach out.
So, do you have an opinion? How do you? Is there a fix? I don't know if there's a quick fix.
I think it's going to take, in 1939, Pat, right after you were born, and I'm teasing. In 1939, University of Chicago was in the Big Ten, Conference, University of Chicago, and they dropped college sports. They dropped football because they thought it was corrupting. So I think what the guy at St. Francis did was a really gutsy move. They make the NCAA tournament, and they decided we can't compete with this NIL. We're a small Catholic school in Loretto, Pennsylvania. So I think it's going to take some gutsy administrators, and some people might have to be sacrificed for it. I wonder if that president at St. Francis is going to get fired for taking them out of Division I. But like a lot of writers, Pat, well, in this case, in the case of Big Time, in the case of my satirical novel, I don't really have any answers. I'm just making fun of the situation. But much of what I'm making fun in the book is how the professors and the academics have all become so impotent. This is all going on. If your kid goes to Purdue, he's never going to meet Matt Painter, who's making $4 million a year, but he's going to get taught by adjuncts that are underpaid and don't have health insurance. And by the way, Ron, before I forget, if your listeners are anywhere near West Lafayette, I'll be at Purdue on Thursday, It's at 7 p.m. And it's through the creative writing program. I'll be doing a talk about Big Time. I'll read a little bit from Big Time and do a quick Q&A at Purdue University on this Thursday. How about you're 2 hours from Purdue, I guess.
2 hours. Yep.
Yes, but so if you look behind me, this gentleman behind me, Russ, is JJ Rivera.
Geez, I better put my glasses on.
He's a UTEP guy.
He's Anna Rivera's brother. He's Anna Rivera's brother. Don't tell me.
So
JJ, get my email from Ron after you leave. It's great to see you.
I can't hear what he said.
I'm going to put him on for a second. Hold on for a second.
Oh, for heaven's sakes. This is a blast from the past.
There you go.
Here we go, man. Oh my goodness, yep. the UTEP contingent is back.
Yeah,
how you doing, Russ?
Now, we've almost got them outnumbered, JJ.
Almost.
But I remember you were a huge Notre Dame fan.
I live here in South Bend now. Yes.
Wow, and are you working in South Bend then?
Yeah. I work for an insurance company here. Yes.
Nice. Well,
I used to work. Go ahead.
I don't want to out your sister for her job because I know it was sort of it was confident. But is she still working for the same people that she was working for?
No, she's been with a private company since the mid 2000s.
Oh, I didn't know. Yeah, I've lost track of her. You know.
Yeah.
Ron, his sister used to be good friends with my ex-fiance. It's a sad story. It's a sad story. We don't want to go there. We're talking about a funny book like Big Time. Anyway,
she still liked you, even though all that
episode.
one. But that's kind of fun. You know, you're the one that really introduced her to basketball. As far as she became a fan for a little while.
I'm sorry. Look, I apologize. JJ, listen, get my email from Ron Hecklinski there, and it's great.
Yes.
If you can come down to Purdue, bring a bus down to Purdue.
No, that's what I was going to tell you. I'm flying out Friday to go to El Paso to visit family, including Anna. Anna will be there, so I'll be gone this week. But yeah, I'll definitely get your email, and we'll stay in touch. And you know, if you're in the area, are you in Chicago now?
No, I'm in I teach at New Mexico State.
Oh, you do? Oh, okay.
Well,
you went to the enemy,
I just retired. Yeah. No, I got hired by New Mexico State to coach in '94, and I coached for 6 years, and then I was a writing professor for 16 years.
Okay.
So Ron, I don't know if Ron can hear me, but I was I was a college coach for 14 years and a professor for 16. So I was actually a professor for slightly longer.
Oh, wow. All right. I'm going to pass it back over to Ron. Hey, Russ, it's been a heck of a time talking to you again. Yeah, and go Miners.
Yep, that's go Miners and go Irish.
Yeah. So I mean, we're doing a show, and JJ Rivera comes in one night, and he starts talking about UTEP. And I start telling him, hey, I mean, one of my great friends in life, I mean, Rusty Bradford is a UTEP guy. And he goes, Russ Bradford? I said, yeah. He says, I know Russ. How many guys in South Bend know Russ Bradford, right?
Yeah, that's right. Hey, Ron, but Pat, you know, the other thing is I never have met Mike Bray, but at one point I sent Mike Bray my book about Irish basketball, Ireland Irish basketball, not Notre Dame Irish, and called Paddy on the Hardwood. And when he took the team over to play in Ireland, and took a travel party with him, and he bought for the team and the travel party. He bought, I think, 40 copies of Paddy on the Hardwood for them to read about real Irish basketball before they went over. This might have been in 2010. I never have met Mike Bray. I'd like to. He doesn't live in South Bend still, does he?
No, I think he's an assistant coach with the Atlanta Hawks now. Yeah.
Or a scout, maybe. Is that or is he assistant coach? Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah, he's on the bench with them. So, hey, listen, we talked about Manchester College for a minute. Pat was on the Manchester College coaching staff when Dick Hunsaker, our good friend, was the head coach at Manchester.
Yeah. You know, Pat, the longer I've been in the business, you know, Dick is just, if there's a better person in the business, I'm not sure. Of course, he's retired now, too, but he's just a gentleman and a great coach, and know, and the only flaw. Have you ever driven in a car with him? He drives with 2 feet, which they teach you in driver's ed. Don't drive with 2 feet.
He's a driver's ed instructor. Pat is.
Well, you didn't teach Dick Hunsaker. I can tell you that.
I just remember when I was over there, we claimed he led the world in speeding tickets.
Oh, I didn't know. Yeah, well, he had a little bit of a heavy foot, but yeah, he was just so nice to me. And I wasn't at Ball State very long before I went, but I had my little. Well, JJ can tell you about my personal crisis, but Dick was always really good to me, and he was even when I left Ball State, he was nothing but supportive. If I had a son, I'd send him to play for Hunsaker, but he's retired.
Hey, listen, man, I can't thank you enough for taking a couple minutes out of your time and talking with us on the show tonight. Your books are amazing. I mean, I thought Patty on the Hardwood was an amazing story, and then to bring that back with 40 Minutes of Hell with Nolan. And then I can't wait to get a copy of your new book, Big Time, and read it and pass it along to everybody here in South Bend.
Ron, thanks a million. And what are you at St. Joe's High School, or where are you helping out at now?
I am not, and obviously I'm teaching at Mishawaka High School still.
Oh, Mishawaka. I knew that. Yeah, sorry,
I was the head coach at Mishawaka for about 5 years. I'm still teaching there. I'm going to retire. I'm going to retire this spring, and which will then give me time to get on a horse and ride down to Texas and hang out with you at New Mexico, man.
New Mexico, yes. Well, we'll go down to El Paso. Well, JJ can pick the restaurant. He can pick the Mexican restaurant. It's the best Mexican food in the world, and El Paso's a great town.
Yeah, maybe we can hang out with his sister, right?
Well, I don't know. Well, I'll have to figure. Yeah, but anyway, you guys all stay in touch. Pat, it's great to meet you.
Nice meeting you.
Hey, thanks, Russ. You're the best, man. Love you, man.
All right, go Irish, go Irish, and go Core State University.
There we go, man.
Thank you.
That's the great care. Russ Bradford, man. He was a great recruiter, and like we said, anybody that can get Chicago kids down to El Paso.
Exactly.
And Antonio Davis, he got Jeep Jackson. He didn't talk about half of the kids that he got, but he was just a great recruiter. A relentless recruiter, and he took the bullet hard for Don Haskins when Don Haskins had some problems, and Russ was able to take the bullet for him, but he's just been a great friend of mine, and I know in this coaching profession you've had guys like that.
Oh, sure.
That you coached with. Hey, so we are almost to 8. Scotty, why don't you take us out? When we come back, then we'll talk about the NCAA tournament.
College. Take a break, Scott. We'll be right back.
Finding private health insurance can be stressful. What if it didn't have to be? I'm Tony Letcher, licensed insurance agent. I prefer to personally meet with my clients so I can get a better understanding of your needs and budget. I can even review your current coverage. I don't want you to be my client today. I want you to be my client forever. Call Tony Letcher today to schedule your free consultation or visit tletcher.com.
The loss of a loved one can leave you with lots of unanswered questions and stress. At Hahn Funeral Homes in Mishawaka, we're here to help. Our focus has always been on the families that we serve. At Hahn Funeral Homes, we stand ready to meet your needs and exceed your expectations when selecting a funeral home. Our experienced funeral directors and staff will be there for you every step of the way for all your funeral service needs. Hahn Funeral Homes is located at 505 West 8th Street in downtown Mishawaka. You can call us anytime at 574-255-1474 or stop in to get your answers from our local funeral professionals about all your funeral needs. Hahn Funeral Homes, a family serving families. Hey, are you in the great state of Indiana and need your driver's license? Frick's Driving School in Mishawaka makes it easy with the Indiana State Driving Exam in-house for just $65. No formal driver's education is required. You might even get to drive with Pat King. Who wouldn't want that? I don't know. You just have to be 16 years and 270 days old, which is like 9 months, and have held an Indiana learner's permit for at least 180 days, which is like 6 months. Frick's provides the vehicle. You just have to bring yourself, a can-do attitude, and a ride to and from the office. The exam takes only about 20 minutes, and you can walk out with your official Indiana driver's license, which we're like the only state that calls it an operator's license for some reason. To schedule, you can call 574-256-0650 or visit fricksdrivered.com. If you're nearing retirement and need to get your money right, and you know what, heck, even if you're not approaching retirement and you still want to get your money right for retirement, call the Harbor Group Planned Wealth. They can help you retire with confidence, especially if you have questions like, what specific steps should I take before retiring? When should I draw Social Security? How do I manage investment risk? How much will health insurance cost if I retire? If I'm over 62, which I am not, but if you are, how much money can you earn part-time without it affecting Social Security and or pension? And is it really possible to get a raise if I retire? If you want all those questions asked and probably many more questions answered, you can call the Harbor Group at 765-393-1074, or you can visit them online at harborgroup.com. Securities and advisory services are offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor. Member FINRA SIPC. Hey, we are back with one more segment here on Coach's Corner. We're going to try to get out before the 2-hour mark tonight because I yelled at these two that I have a newborn and I have to go be a dad. So we're going to wrap it up here, hopefully by the top of the hour. Yeah, right. But yeah, wrap it up here around the top of the hour, hit some March Madness stuff, and then get everybody on out. So here they are once more for the last time. It's Ronnie and Patty.
Patty on the Patty on the hardwood, man.
Our 21st birthday party's gotten bigger over here. We're up to maybe double digits on participants. So congratulations.
I think it's great. The linebacker is obviously, and we don't talk about the linebacker enough. What a great place to come into and hang out. I think the food is really, really good. The clientele is wonderful. All the Notre Dame memorabilia along the walls here. It's just a great place to come out. So on a Monday night, 6:30 to 8:30 is somewhere in there. I mean, come on out, hang out with us, get to have some great food at the linebacker, and just have a great time of telling stories and listening to Coach's Corner with Heck and King. Well, it's hard to believe already that we're on that 1 hour and 30-minute mark. But we've had a couple of great guests. Scotty Hicks, it's amazing, and then Russ Bradford.
Oh, I know, great show. Hey, we got to talk basketball. This last weekend was probably as fun as I've had. The combination of the games that have been on TV, going to Indianapolis for the state finals. Some fantastic games for them. Scott, do you have our bracket for our Coach's Corner bracket? I think the way it's set up right now with Final Four, the top 4 people in that bracket all have different winners. So
I like how 3 of the top 4 live in the same house.
That's a pure coincidence.
How can that be? Because there's only 2 in your house now.
Well, I believe Mrs. King is leading. That's hard to believe.
Stop. If Mrs. King is leading, there needs to be an investigation.
Now, I claim she did that completely on her own.
Although you have the most available points left. So if it goes the way you predicted,
but if you notice, will win. We have an Auburn, we have a Florida, we have a Houston, and then Misty Salvi, one of my high school friends, is in 4th. And if you're
all wrong, it's going to be Duke.
Well, and you got to go down to Terry. Who is that? It's Terry Turner, our baseball coach.
I mean, Terry's got Duke.
Terry's the top. Is the leader with Duke right now.
Yeah,
so.
I got to think. I got to think Terry's in a great. I love Terry Turner. We saw Terry Turner at the Hall of Fame banquet.
Yeah.
And he looked great.
He and his wife were down there, and it was amazing. They had nothing but nice things to say about you. Can you believe that?
Yeah,
Isn't that something?
Yeah. No, I paid Terry off on that.
Is that it?
Trust me.
So I guess that begs the question, though.
Yes.
Is it Duke versus the field? Because I think Duke's playing the best out of anybody.
Well, that's
even though they're all number 1 seeds.
Yeah, and I had 2 topics I was going to talk about tonight. One of them was all the number 1s, and we've got 2 girls games tonight. We are 2 games away from the women's Final Four being all number 1s as well. Now, I think that the one that's going to have the issue tonight is Southern Cal's women play UConn, even though it's out in Seattle. UConn, as number 2, is playing a team from Southern Cal that does not have Juju Smith because she tore her
Juju
ACL. Juju Watkins, I'm sorry.
Juju Smith-Schuster was a
Yeah,
wide
played for the
receiver for the
Kansas City
Steelers.
Chiefs.
Come on,
Yeah.
I tried to sneak him in the lineup here at sub. So that's a topic. My other topic, and we'll maybe talk about this. So I want to present this. How do you fix the NIT? And do we need to fix it? Because the NIT right now is so diluted because, for example, today we've got the Crown Tournament. So they took 16 teams and Fox sponsored it with money and dangled money in front of people. 16 teams that should be in the NIT are playing in this Crown Tournament. The NIT was established 100 years ago, right? When there was only 32 teams.
At least, and I'm pretty sure you saw the first NIT game, right?
I might have. But the point was there were only 32 teams.
Sure.
Now there's 64, so that other 32 are not in the NIT. Now they've taken another 16, so the top 100 teams basically are not in the NIT. What do you do to fix it?
Well, at the end of the day, a lot of teams are choosing, if they don't get into the NCAA tournament, a lot of the teams are choosing, not to play in the other tournaments. And they're choosing not to play, I think, because it has now become a time, to study the portal enrollees.
Right.
And, they're saying, well, I mean, we're not in the NCAA. Who cares if we win the NIT? It's more important for us to do our homework and to recruit kids that are in the portal.
Here's a parallel that I just thought of.
Go ahead.
If I may.
Yes, you may. Scott may.
Is the NIT and March Madness kind of comparable now to the college football playoff and the other bowl games?
The bowl games before Christmas?
Yeah,
Could be.
because I think the bowl games still have a purpose, because you can take your underclassmen and get them another 2-3 weeks practice, get them some development, and basically make it a de facto spring game as they prepare for the next year. And then the teams that are going to go compete for a championship are going to go do it.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's a great comparison, and it's the deal now, and you had some of this in the football playoffs also, where the football portal became available, and so you had kids who might have been playing in the football playoff say, no, man, I got to bounce because I'm in the portal and I got to worry about where I'm going next year. Whereas, I mean, Michigan, for example, Scottie Pippen's son, Jordan Pippen, he enters the portal while his team is still playing.
That was before the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah, and he's no longer playing now.
Right.
Now, whether he was a factor getting major minutes or whatever, he's not playing. So I mean, my problem with it is the dates of when the portal happens.
Right. And that's been a big topic of conversation.
Yeah. Because I mean, last year was why would Mike Woodson take Indiana and go to the NIT tournament when his sole purpose was now to find portal guys and recruit portal guys?
Exactly.
Now, and I don't know if I would tell Mike Woodson, Mike, tell your number 3 assistant to go and take your team to the NIT. Well, that ain't never going to happen. And so head coaches in both sports, football and basketball, got so many things to do and so little, and they're really up against it.
So my topic then would be tonight and tomorrow, Monday and Tuesday, let's watch this Crown Tournament that's on Fox Sports, see how many of those teams have transfer portal players. Are they playing or did they choose not to? How many seniors are playing? I know Butler had their seniors, they played. And I think a lot of it has to do with NIL money. There is some money being dangled. Now, is that money that those seniors might be able to touch? I don't know. So let's just watch these games tonight and tomorrow on Wednesday with the semifinals, so forth. And the NIT games are at Butler on a Wednesday and Thursday, I believe. So there's a lot of basketball on this week. We'll call them the minor bowls that Scott was talking about during football season. But let's just see how many people have begged out because they're in the portal, and how many teams are going to play their younger players, maybe looking toward next year.
Florida, Houston. You like it? Which one?
Houston can't shoot. If they can shoot it, they've got a chance. I like Houston. I'm going.
I mean,
Houston.
they ran Tennessee off the court the other day.
I know they did. But they just ran them off. They just physically ran them off the court. I think I'm going Duke and Houston.
Yeah, I think Kelvin Sampson does a great job at Houston. Their defensive philosophies of running at those ball screens, of almost trapping them for a second and using their length. I mean, I like Houston, but I just think Duke is playing too well. Let's talk about Purdue for a minute. Everybody was giving kudos to Kelvin Sampson for the out-of-bounds play he ran. Oh,
right.
Man, that is such a cool out-of-bounds play. How'd you get that guy guarding the passer out of it? If you break it down, Braden Smith was guarding the pass. It was a simple screen the screener.
It was an
play.
Old-fashioned high school box set, screen the screener.
I mean, screen the screener. And obviously Purdue had talked about it and had ran a certain coverage for it because the man that was guarding the inbounds play, Braden Smith, he ran out to take the cutter in the opposite corner. And the player that was setting the screen was supposed to switch and take the out-of-bounds man. He doesn't switch. And so what everybody thought was just a phenomenal play by Kelvin Sampson was just a missed coverage by Purdue.
Coverage. Scott, are you still there? Do you have that?
Yeah.
Do you have that? Once you pull that up, and maybe we can get it big enough where we can break this down. We might just actually X and O something here.
I wish there was a telestrator for
we
this.
We need the telestrator, don't we?
Yeah, next year we'll get a
Tony
telestrator.
Romo. Yeah.
Tony Romo.
Somebody wants to sponsor us to get a telestrator.
On some NIL money for us next year.
Let us know.
You just make that as big as we can. We're going to watch the out-of-bounds guy. Now, if you'll notice, look, there's nobody on the ball side box. All they did was they just pulled the guy up to the elbow, and he's the screener guy. And if you watch the backside elbow is going to come all the way to the corner. He's a decoy. Okay? So go ahead and run it.
Hang on. Let me restart it.
Yeah, it's a play that I think every high school coach
Every high
runs.
school, yes.
There's a screen. Here comes the second diagonal
screen.
screen.
You got a diagonal. Now watch where the top side elbow guy goes. He doesn't go to the rim. He goes to the corner. All right, go.
And Braden Smith goes out to the corner with him on some type of a switch coverage.
Now look at the top left. Who you got? One player guarding
three
nobody.
guys guarding two dudes right here.
And there's one guy at the top of your screen guarding nobody. He's supposed to be entering. He was supposed to run to the inbounder and switch with Braden Smith, and he didn't do it.
So let me ask you this question.
See, he's late getting there. Basket.
Does Braden Smith got to give some NIL money back?
He should.
Because of the coverage?
Yeah, Braden Smith had no business running clear out to the corner.
Or, was it a predetermined switch? Because
I think so.
If it was a predetermined switch, then it was the guy guarding the screener who was supposed to come down. And a lot of times when you break those out-of-bounds defensive coverages down, everybody's got to be on the same page. And I used to tell my guys, if we're switching, then you don't switch until you have communication with who you're switching with.
I'm sure that was predetermined. They had worked on that during practice on a walkthrough,
and
somebody busted a coverage.
There's no assuming. You're going to talk it through, because when you assume, you make Kelvin Sampson look like a genius, right?
Well, and it cost him a ball game. Scott, run it through one more time, and just watch Braden Smith. He doesn't need to go that far. Maybe he was told to. All he's got to do is go to the rim. He just got to go to the net and stop, because they got to throw the ball by him.
I think Scott may be on baby duty, to be honest with you.
Hang on. Sorry, I had it pulled up. I don't know why I didn't.
There you go. Well, then we'll let you go. We'll let you go change the diaper.
You're good.
There you go. There's Braden going to the corner. There's the inbounds passer stepping in. Now, obviously, if Kelvin Sampson knew that Braden was going to great play, coach, great play design, but just a normal play design, screen the screener,
right? Bad
coverage, bucket, Purdue loses. But the fact that Purdue had played their guts out and were in the game up to that point, at that point, it's anybody's game.
Yes.
It's anybody's game.
And they were down 10 at one time.
Yes.
And did a great job of getting back in the game and tying the game.
And if Braden gets that charge, then maybe they have the
You're right.
Maybe they
At the
have the last
7-second
shot. We're
mark,
talking
he
about
got run
back-to-back
over.
Final Fours.
You never know.
So hats off to Purdue and the fact that Matt Painter coaches them up. And our Final Four is going to be a great weekend this coming week of college basketball. We just finished a great weekend of high school basketball. The city of Indianapolis was buzzing, right?
Yo, it was a hot place this weekend. That's for sure. You had college games on Friday and Sunday, high school on Saturday. There were people that it was full. The night games, the arena, they had probably 15, 16,000. The upper deck was full. I'm sure people from out of town were there because they had nothing else to do. Let's go watch Indiana basketball.
Yeah.
So you guys both have what'd you say, Houston and Duke?
Yep, that's our finals.
Yeah, and I have Duke. Who do you got, Duke or Houston?
Do you want? I'll take Houston just to
Well,
be different.
we're gonna have our show next Monday before the game.
That's
so
right, we will.
We are going to have our show. Patrick is going to be in Mexico. Ronnie Heklinski is going to be in South Bend. And you know what I say to Pat all the time? You can't hide money. Pat's going to Mexico. I'm in the Bend. You cannot hide money.
Lucky I got a rich wife.
So what about all of these coaching changes for a minute here?
Oh, there's a bunch.
I mean, there's a lot. I think the Texas coaching change is really, really interesting. And obviously Russ alluded to the fact that Rodney Terry got fired. I mean, 3 years at Texas. And I mean, I have a little bit of a different take on it, also because when coaches start making $4 or $5 million a year, you better win.
You don't have any choice.
No, you better win. And if you don't win, then you're going to get replaced. Sean Miller was once one of the darlings of college coaching, right?
Yes.
Went from Xavier to Arizona.
Right.
Could do no wrong. Was on every cover of Sports Illustrated, got jammed up at Arizona, right?
Things didn't work out at Arizona.
Money, buying players. Oh, what's it bring me back to?
It's all legal now.
Bell, yeah, everything that happened to him is now legal. So
yes.
Same thing with Sampson.
Yes. Hey.
Same thing with Sampson.
And so now.
Same thing with Jim Tressel.
Sean goes back to Xavier. Sean goes back to Xavier. The Texas job opens up. Sean. That's a great job. I think Texas is a great job.
I think so too.
Yeah.
We can talk more about that in the off season. We got all summer, or we got not all summer, but a good chunk of the spring.
We're going till probably the third week of May, to be honest with you.
Well, next week we'll talk about Final Four, the Final Two. We'll predict that, a couple hours before tip-off, and we probably need to start talking some baseball.
Well, no, I'm pretty sure maybe next week we'll have some portal names figured out of who's going where.
Yeah.
Now, the Cubs kid, and you ought to be happy about this, Scott. The Cubs kid, the IU kid, Gabe Cubs, has already announced he's transferring to Ohio State.
Ohio State, I saw that.
He's from Dayton, so that didn't.
Well, no,
shock me.
I'm sure Ohio State's going out of the Final Four. The Gabe Cubs is transferred there, right?
Of course.
Yeah. Hey, listen, another great show, Pat. You're the best. Last Saturday had to be so special for you to be down and broadcasting.
It's a lot of fun.
That championship game, rubbing elbows with a lot of great people down in Indy, and then watching that epic Fishers game against Jeffersonville, where I'm not sure if anybody would have bet Jeffersonville.
Unless you were from Jeffersonville.
Yeah. I mean Fishers 43-0, right?
Exactly.
But
it was a great game. They were legit, plain and simple.
And that just goes to show that anything can happen on a given night. But anyway, thanks for tuning in to Coach's Corner.
Thanks for our two guests.
At the linebacker, Russ Bradford and Scotty Hicks. And we just had another great time tonight, you and me. We will catch you guys. And now we won't be at the linebacker next week, but we will be on.
Right, same time.
Pat from Mexico drinking tequila.
Ooh.
No, and here's the deal. Our show's going to run, 90 minutes. Every 15 minutes, you gotta take a finger of tequila.
Ooh.
And then when we hit that 8 o'clock time, I want to hear you talk. A finger of tequila every 15 minutes, so that would be 6 of them.
Oh,
that ain't that much, is it?
I'm out of practice.
Yeah, you got a week to practice up.
I have a seatbelt on that couch so I don't fall off of it.
All right, man. Hey, Scott, thanks, man. You're the best. Thanks for tuning in to Coach's Corner. You're the best, Pat. And
Go change a couple diapers there, kiddo.
we will catch y'all next week with Final Four action.
All right, bye now.
Ladies and gentlemen,